Okay, so welcome everyone. This is the first part of Cloud AWS Cloud Expert. So I'll just go ahead and quickly take you through to the uh, content. So first we'll introduce you what is cloud. Then we'll take you to the cloud provider, how it and their service offerings. And then we'll quickly cover up running up a virtual machine and several more agendas which have been mentioned onto your portal. Just a second. One second, let me just go ahead and minimize it so that, and there's no way to minimize it. Great. So this is the agenda. I'll give you a brief introduction over AWS and on 2020 what all new services has been launched. History of AWS, 1,000 feet foot overview. What is EC2? How does it work? Getting your hands dirty with EC2 part 1, part 2, and several other more things because we have a lot of time today. So feel free to ask any question. We'll even take some breather in between because it would be a long session and definitely you can go ahead and grab a cup of coffee or something. So be my guest for any kind of questions. And first, I would like to go ahead and introduce myself and my company, what I do, what we do. And so taking forward, one second, let's get back to the slide.
So sorry to interrupt. Have you started the recording?
Yeah, I have.
Fair.
Yeah, recording is on. So a quick introduction of what we are doing. So this is an introductory webinar for AWS Cloud Platform, where you'll understand the basic of cloud compute and the various service offerings which AWS has to go ahead and provide. And this is the website which you need to browse for knowing more about our upcoming events and everything. So this is Brewing Code. This is a company which has recently been started for community services over technical platforms, between in all technical platforms, be it SaaS, PaaS, AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, in terms of programming languages, platforms, frameworks, and processes. So this is a lovely website which we have designed. So you can definitely go ahead and have a browse. And feel free to ask any questions, even once we are done with this webinar. Now to go ahead and give you my introduction, again, I'll follow the slide so that we don't miss any point. So the next slide talks about our company itself, which I've given you a brief. Quickly to go ahead and introduce Niloshima, who is a .NET expert. She has been working over a decade onto the .NET and Windows platform. I have been a technical evangelist as well as a cloud expert and a solution enterprise architect. There's another professional, Deepthi, who hasn't joined today, but yeah, she's a proficient cloud solutioning architect. Moving ahead, as you can see, I'm certified solution architect for AWS as well as Microsoft Azure. This is my LinkedIn link. You can always go ahead and follow, and again, feel free to ask direct one-to-one questions if you have any queries. Today, the new thing which I've introduced is I've gone ahead and put up a small, portfolio about mine, what all things I've done, which all companies I've worked, so that you can just go ahead and know about my background. So I've done double masters. The first masters was done in the field of computer science, and followed by PG DBA, and that was from Symbiosis University. Apart from that, there are several other certifications which I've done, like MCSA, MCTP, MCITP, and so on. Currently, I'm working in the capacity of product head EMEA and APAC for My Media Incorporation, which is a US-based organization. And earlier to that, I was working with IUG Sapient. That was a joint merger Over there, I was head of product research and development, Pinnacle Softwares, and I started my career with IBM Global. Uh, Going through the skill sets which I acquired, you can see there are lots of feathers in my cap, and here we go. You can just go ahead and read it out, and these are my visas and so on. So no, big stories to boast about myself. Let's get back to the slide. Okay, so do you have a brief understanding what is cloud, or should I just go ahead and run you through what is cloud and so on? Hello?
It would be better if you could explain more about cloud.
So cloud is an on-demand availability compute system, resources, especially data storage. So I'll try to explain rather than going ahead and giving an explanation. There are various data centers in the world. All the data centers try to go ahead and give you agility of going ahead and running a server, running up a database, running up a various platforms, coding mechanisms, and other things onto a global level, onto a cloud level. Means you can just go ahead and tweak some things and run it over the internet, and this slide would go ahead and talk about it. So there are various components and different types, what we call it as SaaS, YaaS, PaaS, and FaaS. So once we go ahead and provide any service as a as a platform, or once we go ahead and give any infrastructure as a platform, so as a service, sorry, once we go ahead and give an infrastructure as a service, or once we go ahead and give a platform as a service, so these all things would be covered up in AWS. I'll just go ahead and explain you the different kind of market distribution which AWS has right now. So it's a giant when it comes down to cloud compute. 85% of the entire cloud compute is being taken over by AWS. The remaining 5 is being taken by Azure and others. GCP just stands with 3% and 2% of others, like several others like Rackspace and several others. So the most important part now I would like to go ahead and cover is one second, is to go ahead and give you a hands-on on what AWS is and what are the various services. So this is how the AWS console looks like. Once you go ahead and land up, you can always go ahead and create a new account on AWS, and that goes ahead and gives you a bounty of some dollars, as well as the running hours of free tier services. So you can always go ahead and run those services and try to explore more, try to play around these services. So sticking towards today's agenda, we would be just working towards EC2. Now I'll just go ahead and quickly drive you through what is an EC2. So EC2 stands for Elastic Compute Cloud. So there are 2 C's, and that's why it's called a EC2. And that's a web service that provides resizable compute capacity in the cloud. Now here is the point where I'll explain you what is a cloud. So cloud is nothing a new concept which has come up. It has always been there. So all the data centers of the world, they try to go ahead and give you a service. Now the service could be in the form of storage. The service could be in the form of networking. The service could be in terms of images of operating system. It could be as a platform wherein you can just go ahead and execute your web servers, your database, and a lot more things. So it gives you a agility to go ahead and boot up new server instances within fraction of seconds or minutes, allowing you to quickly scale up the capacity. You can scale up, scale down, which is not present if you have your own server, bare metals and so on. And that also helps you to go ahead and both slow down or upscale your service requests. So do you know something known as denial of service, or what is the service layer for any servers? Like how many concurrent users can go ahead and come. Are you aware of these terms, or should I explain them?
No, aware.
Okay, so there are a lot of problems which comes up once you go ahead and run on your own servers. So there are denial of services, what means like, if you have like a capacity of like 1,000 users and like 2,000 users or 5,000 concurrent users come up to your server, that's denial of service comes up. We call, and there is again a kind of attack which comes up, which is known as DDoS. So these are off track, but I'll try to go ahead and have a quick explanation for them as well. So here you have first security layer, which goes ahead and protects you from these kind of like watchdog and so on. And apart from that, it also goes ahead and upscale immediately as soon as the the limits are reached, the threshold levels of any server has been reached. It would automatically replicate the server and take it to a new server. The all the bulk would be migrated to the other servers which are running within the instance. So this is the new dashboard which has been provided by AWS. You can always go ahead and toggle on and off from this particular button, wherein you can just go ahead and see how the older version used to look like. But again, I'll just go ahead and quickly drive you through what all offerings these. So in totality, these are the list of services which has been provided by AWS as of current date. And in total, they have 175 fully functional services which have been provided, which is the best in class and the highest number in class. So even if you plan, so I'm pointing out to ground station right now. So even if you plan to go ahead and launch a rocket from Earth to some other satellite or to the moon, and you have designed some kind of things, so it even gives you the agility to go ahead and make this plan, have a launch pad of your own. So these things, just imagine how much cost it would take it to go ahead and launch a rocket in today's modern world, like Tesla and other companies are doing. So let's not go there. But again, coming back, so these are the list of services. So we'll be going ahead and covering the compute part to the max whatsoever we can do as of today. Then comes the storage part, where S3 comes into picture. We have lots and lots of database, wherein Aurora is the patented, as well as it's their own database, which has been designed and developed by AWS. There are migration and transfers, things been provided by AWS, because a lot of time we talk about cloud adoption. A lot of time we talk about migrating things from Azure, because if there's a problem in scalability, or if there's a problem in any other format, like you are not able to run the full throttle of your engine, or the experts which have been recently hired in your company, they are AWS comfortable, or they are pro in AWS and they are not pro in Azure, so they definitely try to go ahead and migrate. So these are all Snowball, data sync. Snowball, I'll just quickly make you explain, because whatever you can ask anywhere, but no one can be an expert of all of these 175 services which they have to offer. But yeah, as I've worked on Snowball, so I'll just go ahead and quickly give you a Snowball. So do you imagine what is the size of a database when it comes down to NASDAQ, when it when they have to transfer their entire database from one location to another? So over the fat pipe or over the internet, it's very risky, because there is a chance of going ahead and getting them hijacked, or getting the data piracy, or getting the data being leaked on the way when the data is cold, or when the data is warm, or when the data is on the flight, or when the data is on the stable node. So AWS has provided an entire machine for that, when it would have, say, about 100 terabytes of disk space, and they provide a kind of a big box. It generally gets shipped through air to any destination, and then you can just go ahead and transfer everything that is end-to-end encrypted and ciphered, and that gets transferred from one place to another, and again it gets replicated onto the AWS network. Now the network and content delivery, we have all kind of CDNs, CloudFront. Route 53 stands for all kind of IP gateway services whatsoever they have. Now this is the interesting part which you were talking about. So if you are like a coder and you want to just go ahead and jump in to the cloud platform, so this is the right place, where in code star, code commit, And there are various other services which cloud number 9. This is a unique company which has been recently been acquired by AWS. For robotics, you have your own. So going forward, for machine learning, you can see there's a plethora of services over here, talking about Poly and everything. And for media services, media streaming, Kinesis, media content, media convert, there are various other services. So again, coming back, you can always go ahead and arrange it in A to Z, so that if you want to just go ahead and search it in the form of a dictionary, or you can club them. This is the kind of service which they provide. So if you want to go to analytical services, you can always go ahead and come up over here. Towards the history section, as you can see, most frequently used tabs would be automatically been configured over here. So I generally go to console home, EC2s, IAMs, and billing, because you have to always be aware of what the billing is going on. Talking about the resource group, so you can always go ahead and pin all those services over here, whatever is required. Towards the upper part of the ribbon, you can see this is the account information. This is my organization, any kind of codes, billing dashboard, and so on and on. Now, this is the most important part, wherein you can find the region in which you're running up the servers. A lot of time what happens is, I generally land up while coming back to the AWS console, and okay, it's not enabled as of now. Sorry, my bad. So if I'm landing up to, say, about Singapore, and I had a server which was supposed to be running, and I don't find my EC2 once I go ahead and click on. So don't be afraid, because you're in the wrong region, so you won't find any kind of instances running over here. You can see it's 0. So it gives you a cardiac arrest a lot of time when you find that 0 instances are running, and the last night you have just go ahead and try to go ahead and run an instance. So again, my region is Mumbai, because because of the data is supposed to be kept in the same land. So that's the law of the land in India, that all the clients should have their data within the premises. Data sovereignty, that's what we call. So we have huge number of regions out here. Regions are nothing, they are the data centers across the globe. So you can find 5 over here, which is in United States. There's one dedicated for the central federal government, which won't be showing up over here. There's one in Africa, which is in Cape Town. There are so many in Asia. There's one in Canada. In Europe, you have several. You have new regions also coming up, which are currently, in Japan, which is Osaka. You have one of them again coming up in Spain, and one in the Southeast Pacific domain, which is in Jakarta. So let's not go more onto that. I'll try to go ahead and elaborate in the upcoming sessions. Now, this is the support center. So if you have any kind of queries, there are like dedicated support center. There are like, minimalistic support. So there are various support plans which they offer. If you need to expert help, now there are occasions in which you're about to go ahead and crack a big deal, and you need an expert help. So you can always go ahead and talk to a cloud expert. Rather talk to me than going and talking to them, and I won't charge you for that. Trust me. So yeah, so this is the expert help which you can just go ahead and have. This is a huge number of documentation which they have provided on each and every services, 175 services. There are training modules present over here and other resources. Now, coming back to our own agenda of the day. So I'll just toggle to the new mode, so that, because this would be mandate after some time. So here you can see there's one running instance. Now I would quickly elaborate what is an instance. Instance is nothing but it's just going ahead and creating a kind of a server which is dedicated or partially dedicated for you on a multiple tenancy or a single tenancy, or it's like a bare metal or whatever. We're going to cover that in the upcoming part of this particular section. So here is a website which has been running on liver transplant. So I'll just go ahead and quickly drive you through, and we'll also create a new one. So never need to worry about them. So you can see what is the instance type, availability zone, instance state which is running, and status check when it was, if there any alarm has been raised, so it would turn up red. What is the public IP? The same information, you can just go ahead and browse it. Let me just go ahead and take it up so that you can have a closer look. So here we go. So this is the elastic IP. I'll even explain what is an elastic IP and what happens. And these are the security groups. So without any further ado, let's jump in and try to go ahead and explain you. These are like monitoring services. Generally, it's a part of CloudWatch, what they are provided, but we'll cover CloudWatch in the upcoming sessions. So EC2, again, as I've explained, this is your own, if you're about to run a web server, or if you have some kind of server capabilities which you have to go ahead and outscale, and you are not able to do it on your desktop or the normal servers which you have. So AWS welcomes you with open heart that just go ahead and start a session over here. Someone has joined, I guess. Anyways, warm welcome again. So over here, we'll just go ahead and launch an instance. Now, I'll just go ahead and, till the time it takes, instance, there can be multiple number of instances which you can run. The maximum number of instances should be less than 200 for a particular account. I don't know why they have created that, but yeah, this is something which comes up in the examinations most of the time. Are you preparing for appearing for the exam? So I'll take that particular into consideration while my lecture onto this particular topic. So here you have a huge number of array of AMIs which has been shown over here. Now what an AMI is, it's a Amazon machine image. Now earlier what used to happen was, like, if you're supposed to go ahead and install sushi, so you need to just go ahead and run for the sushi disk or make a bootable pen drive and then plug it into a server and then try to go ahead and run those servers. If you need to go ahead and run any Windows server like 2019 or 2019 or 2012, so you need to just go ahead and take the disk, install them, and everything needs to be taken care of, running up the drivers for your server and everything. So if you're talking about any kind of Linux distribution for, say, Sushi, Kali, Ubuntu, or anything, so you need to just go ahead and install that. So they have made our life easier by going ahead and creating an image which is onto a frozen mode. I won't get into the frozen mode and active mode, but yeah, so you just go ahead and select this, and you can have an ARM, which is again a kind of compute. It replicates what is the NUMA architecture of your processor. So let's not again get into that, but a brief description of what server you're going to choose is being mentioned over here. So you can see that Amazon has created its own Linux version, and over here you can see 2 AMI HVM. So this stands for hypervisor machine. So what runs under a hypervisor machine, that's again, we can discuss it in some other sessions, but I'll just go ahead and quickly. So this is a virtual machine. This is not a bare metal, because hypervisor is a platform which was being provided by Intel as well as Microsoft as well for running up different kind of virtual machines. SSD stands for solid state drive. So you can see over here itself that it's a solid state drive, which won't be running on a Barracuda mode or on a magnetic disk. So I'll just go ahead and quickly run you through. This is RedHot distribution, Linux 8, HVM, again, SSD type. And this is the AMI version which goes on. Going forward, these are Windows and Windows Server 2019 base. And the most important thing to be noted for a free tier guy would be like the eligibility. Why the free tier? So free tier stands for any component which is pinned, they won't be charging up till a certain extent, like 200 hours not 200 hours, I forgot the exact number of duration, up till when it's free. After that, it's payable. So these are all Windows instances. Now, these are deep learning AMIs, which is again Ubuntu. Uh, Now, talking about choosing the Amazon machine image, uh, you have seen all the images. Now, here is something important. So, these are my AMIs. Now, I have created a backup of my own servers so that if any given day, if my server goes for a toss, I can just select it on the 3rd June 19. So, these are the instances, these are raw WordPress instances. I'll explain, how to go and run them as well. So whenever you have done a lot of homework by creating a database, a PHP server or a Apache server, and you have all the components installed, everything is hunky-dory, up and running. So generally try to go ahead and create an AMI, because that would save a lot of your hard work. The next time you have to run a similar kind of instance, you can immediately go ahead and run it from here. Now, this is the marketplace. This is again a wonderful place because most of the companies, they have created their own uh, entire end-to-end. Like, what's the difference between these two? I'll just go ahead and quickly explain. So these are plain operating system vanilla flavor for Linux or for anything sushi or for Windows, which you go ahead and choose. But if you go to the marketplace and if you need a complete stack of things which have been installed, like you need a Microsoft 2016 base, accompanied by, say, about a kind of a database installed already. So you can just go ahead and select it. Or, for example, this is a WordPress. So in installing a WordPress site, it takes hell out of time, wherein you have to go ahead and create your own instance first, then install some operating system, then install PHP, then install MySQL, and configure everything, configure your database. But if you select this, which again comes up to the free tier, you can just select it and it would be up and spinning. So towards your left hand side, again, you can see so many options, wherein how many, so you can imagine for CentOS, there are 553 instances in this marketplace. For Ubuntu, it's more than 1,000. So you can just go ahead and explore it into your free time. Again, these are community AMIs, which are like free, and you can just go ahead and filter it basis the kind of base which you want, architecture of your servers which you want, whether you want EBS or not, root encryption or not, what operating system do you want, whether you want Fedora or CentOS or Amazon Linux. So again, coming back, for this particular session, we are going to use Amazon Linux 2 AMI. We have just selected this. Now, this is a very important slide. Please pay attention. Are we still online? Okay, I'm just checking. I think Miloshima is not there.
Yeah.
Okay, you're here. Okay, sorry. I was just thinking I'm talking in thin air. So no worries. So getting back to the topic. And the recording is on. So this is an important slide wherein I'll try to go ahead and explain what are the different families, as well as what are the different type of instances which you have. So just to give you a reference, whenever you are trying to go ahead and buy a computer, there are various types of computers which are available in the market. You need your specific, model, like, what kind of instance computer which you want, how much RAM do you want, how much disk storage which you want. So this is more to do with that particular thing, wherein I'll try to go ahead and give you a brief introduction about what these instances would do, and what are their specific requirements when you're supposed to go ahead and call which instance. So before we jump in onto this particular section, there was something which I was missing, which is there are different kind of instances. First of them is on demand, like you want to have a immediate instance which you are supposed to run. So you just need to go ahead and click it and run it, and this would just go ahead and do your job. So these all type of instances, these are like on demand. Second thing is reserved. Reserved is provides you with a capacity of reserved instances with significant discounts on an hourly rate of the instance which you're running. By this I mean, suppose if you're very prudent about your client that he's going to pay you for upfront 2 years or 3 years contract, you've signed it with a person. So if you try and run this particular machine, it's going to charge you on an hourly basis. But if you're going to run it on something like for 2 years or 3 years dedicated, so you can have a reserved instance wherein they would go and depreciate the cost because they get an upfront business and everyone loves upfront business. So they'll go ahead and reduce the cost of this particular thing to a tremendous level. Now we'll move on to a spot. So these things won't be mentioned over here because you can go to the various. I think spot and other things could be mentioned over here, but yeah, you can see request a spot instance. So these are again wonderful things which you can definitely read and maneuver in your free time. You can just hover your mouse and that would show up how and what to do and what it's all about. So I'll just go ahead and give you the explanation of spot. It's an easy bid mechanism in which you can go ahead and bid, like if suppose I'll give you with a example. uh, so the example is like you got a project from a pharmaceutical company wherein you have to run a huge database and drill down of COVID-19 patients throughout India and what were their symptoms and everything. So it's a compute intrinsic as well as database intrinsic kind of a job role. So for that, it's a higher. So if you go back to these kind of instances, what's mentioned over here, T2 micro, and so on and on. So these are not capable to go ahead and do this. But if you go to general purpose T2 3A 2x large, so you can see the RAM size, the CPU, everything is quite high. So you have 32 gigs of RAM, 8 cores of NUMA architecture, and the EBS volume again, and it can go ahead and scale up to a network capacity of 5 gigabytes. So this is huge. So now if I'm a smart fellow and I don't have any time crunch, so I can just go ahead and bid for the spot for this particular instance. So what will happen is whenever the capacity of the entire data center is low, for example, in the night time when no one is running their servers, so at that time they'll just go ahead and give you this particular thing, and everything is, trust me, automated. So you just need to go ahead and give the batch commands, or you just need to go ahead and they'll give you a mail that okay, your spot is ready. You can just go ahead and use it. So if the charge of this particular instance, T2 extra large, double XL, is suppose $40 per hour, so they'll just give you for $16 per hour because that is the time when they do not have higher bulk on their data centers, and since it's going as waste and their entire electricity is going for their servers, so they just go ahead and give it on spot. And then comes the dedicated host. The dedicated hosts are the physical EC2 servers dedicated for your usage. In this, they'll try to go ahead and reduce the cost as well, allowing you to go ahead and have an inbound or a server bound licensing, and it's more like a bare metal. So if you're not a system architect, so there's no point discussing about it. So bare metal is like the entire metal of the blade servers or the kind of dedicated servers which you have got. So there won't be any kind of sharing being done on those servers. It would be a dedicated server for you. So yeah, so for this particular exercise, we are going to select T2 micro or T2 small, whatsoever you want. I'll prefer T2 small. Now I'll click on review and launch. So it would take me to, yes, I would like to continue to select different type of instance. Okay. And
Vijay, is it, I have a question like,
yes, please ask.
yeah, is this instance of virtual machines you are going to create?
Yeah. So over here, you can see that we have selected the Amazon Linux 2 AMI hypervisor, and this comes up with T2 micro ECUs. Let's not get into that. You have got one virtual CPU and 1 gigs of RAM. EBS, I'll cover it on a different slide. Instance detail, if you just want to go ahead and have a check. This is the network which is going to be provided. I'll go ahead and give you a brief on the network part in the upcoming slides. Storage. Any which way, storage is about to come. So this would be the third. Okay. So this is this I was trying to go ahead and explain. You can create your own VPC, virtual private cloud, by going ahead and having a dedicated naming for that, but let's not do that as of now. Over here, everything, let's select it as default. We won't want to go ahead and fall in different availability zones. So every region has got minimum three availability zones. So it would just go ahead and prefer no preference required as of now. Auto assign public IP. This is something important. Let's assign it as a public IP. So there would be a dedicated public IP for this particular server instance. And once we go ahead and create an instance, we can directly go ahead and give it a call on anywhere from the internet from this public IP. Now, placement group, let's not again get into that. Capacity revision, it's open and flexible. Now, this is an important part wherein you can. So what happens is, like if you're running a EC2 and that was on a AMI of Linux and that used to have 1 gigs of RAM, and your client came up to you and said that, okay, hey buddy, I need to go and put in like 8 gigs of RAM because the bulk on our servers is going to increase. So if you have frozen this particular section, you won't be able to go ahead and increase that. So anytime you can just go ahead and tweak the capacity of your resources. So this is for the same thing. Now AMI role, we'll go ahead and cover up AMI dedicatedly in the upcoming slides. Shutdown behavior is something very important. Mind you, if you just go ahead and click terminate, so if you shut down, your instance would be terminated. But if you click on stop, it would just go ahead and stop. Now, what's the difference? A lot of time, once we go ahead and, we being Indians, so what we do is, if we are trying to go ahead and run something like a staging server or like a trial server, we tend to go ahead and stop the servers when it's not in use so that, we are not being charged for that. So there's only one company which even charges you when your server is down, that is GCP. Apart from that, they don't charge you once you have stopped your server because you are not running the virtual instance. So they are not supposed to go ahead and bill you. So this is now stop hibernate behavior. So this is something we can click on or click off. That the check mark depends on our requirements. This is very important. I'll even cover this. So accidental termination of protection. So this is what we do in case a lot of times when you have like long list of EC2s onto your dashboard and you forgot to go ahead and click the right one and you click on terminate. So it would always give you an option that, okay, you won't be able to delete it ASAP. So I'll explain it. I've just check marked over here. Monitoring, CloudWatch, mind you, is a paid service. They give you a tiny what I was showing on the first screen of my that liver transplant website. That tiny mining amount of monitoring services is free by AWS. So if you want, definitely you can have a dedicated drill wherein every 5 minutes it would go ahead and create an entire drill of understanding what your server components are doing everything is hunky-dory. If there's any alarming thing, it would just go ahead and escalate. SMS, SNS, and these are other services which we'll be talking in another sessions, wherein immediately you'll get a trigger point that, okay, hey, your service is going down, or there's huge amount of bulk coming up to your servers, and you need to just go ahead and do auto scale, or auto scale is automatic, whatever mode you have selected. Tenancy, this is again very important. So if you want to have a dedicated, this is again what I was talking about, like if I'll quickly give you a understanding how the rack, how the servers and everything works. So in a data center, you have multiple amount of racks. I'm giving you a 6,000 feet overview. So in a data center is nothing. It's just a collection of network. Huge fiber optic networks are connected to various IBM, HP servers. They have racks and racks of servers. Every rack has, say, about bare minimum 10 or 20 odd servers. One server is again further been bifurcated into virtual machines, and one virtual machine is, so that particular entire server is known as bare metal, what I was talking about earlier. So if you need an entire bare metal, you can have the bare metal as well. That's a very costly affair with AWS, but you can have that. Now, if you just need a component of that particular bare metal, then they go ahead and create their own virtual instances, and they go ahead and dedicate one of these instances to you. So this is how it works. So if you want to have a dedicated thing or a dedicated host, you can select it over here, wherein that particular dedicated virtual machine would be yours, not an instance of that particular virtual machine. So there's a difference between a virtual machine running on a dedicated instance, an instance running on a dedicated virtual machine, and a virtual machine dedicatedly designed and given to you for your purposes. This is T2, T3, nothing to do with this. File system, again, nothing to do with this. Now, this is an important section wherein this is used for bootstrapping. So I'll try to cover up. Any of you guys work for PHP or other platforms, so you can run the Apache commands, you can run the MySQL commands, and whatsoever command line you will just go ahead and imprint over here in this section, that would automatically run and enable those things these are generally for advanced users. So let's not get into this, but yeah, definitely if we plan to go ahead and host a session for running a WordPress or a Magento or a Drupal website, I'll show you the magic what happens over here. Most of the work would be done over here itself before going ahead and running the command line again and again. Now, here's something important when it comes down to storage. So you can see the three different type of storage: provisioned, IOPS, and general purpose SSD and magnetic. So mind you, this is again an examination question a lot of times. First, earlier when I was taking the certification examination, this particular window never came up, wherein you can encrypt the root snapshot or the root of EBS. That never used to be allowed, but now they have allowed this as well. So this can be an important examination question if any one of you is about to go ahead and take. So it's giving me 8 gigs, which is a decent amount of.
One question.
Yeah.
We can add encryption in the. You are talking about the storage, right?
Yeah.
So can we, add SSH sort of encryption, some sort of or some sort of handshake or anything, something like that?
We can do it, but you cannot do it from here. You can do it once the instance is up and running, and for that you have to always go ahead and add a new volume for that, because in the root is something very esoteric for these guys. And now, as you can see, once we go ahead and land up to the EBS section, and there are the cold HDD. So this is again an examination question, which most of the, or an interview question, that these things won't be provided into the root drive. So in root, you'll just be provided with these three basics: magnetic, standard, provisioned IOPS, and a general purpose SSD. But once you go ahead and add up another volume and say about, we increase its size for 40 gigs. So over here, again, encryption is allowed, but earlier for root, encryption was not allowed. For any extension of your database, root was, it was allowed, but not for the root one. So yeah, so this is another examination
It's more
question.
like, it's more like that the data will be encrypted, right?
Yeah,
Not the root, right?
encrypted. Yeah,
Okay. Thank you.
yeah. Now adding tags. Uh, this is a very important part. I'll explain you what a key pair value means and why most of the people, initially when we go ahead and start running up servers, or once we are like working on to the servers, we generally try to ignore this particular section, but we are not supposed to ignore, because once you are in a larger volume EC2 instances, and for example, I would just try to write EC2 in India, and value would be Delhi. I would also try to employee, and that was Vijay. And now I'll try to say what I'm trying to run on this. So I'm making a type, and I'm trying to write need plus for WordPress, and so on more. Try to add as many tags. Trust me, it would just help you later on, and I'll tell you how it would help you later on in the upcoming slides. This is very important slide again, wherein everything you would like to know about how to. Okay, first I'll explain this so that once we come up to the upcoming slide, wherein this would be required, I'll try to go ahead and elaborate onto this particular segment. So imagine a situation wherein you are running, say, about 50 or odd 100 odd servers, and you forgot that who was the guy who recently installed, whether he is still into this organization or whether he has left, what kind of configurations did he call. So you never need to go ahead and have a deep dive into the server itself on a SSH mode or on a GUI mode, and know, okay, we had SQL, okay, we had WordPress for this particular, okay, this was the guy, okay, this were the AMI roles which were provided by this. So key value pair always help you. It even help you to go ahead and delete or to go ahead and omit the right instance, because it would always go ahead and give this tags. Now if you try to filter, like which were the servers in 2019 which were ran in Delhi. So if you try to filter the value, you'll all get all those servers running with the value of Delhi. And if you want to know that how many system architects were running this particular server, so you will come to know that, okay, if Vijay was the one, how many servers he has run in the past, like for 2 months or 3 months and so on. So these are the kind of filtering things which you can do easily. And if you just leave it vacant, you won't be able to add the tags later on, as per the earlier guidelines, but things are always on the fly to change.
Just one more question here.
Yes, ma'am.
These tags are important for the admin folks, right? Those who are managing the
Data centers, yeah.
the VM and everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Now coming down to the security group, let's take a breather of just 2 or 5 minutes, because I need to gasp somewhere, and I also need to just go and use the washroom. I'll just come back. Just give me like 2 minutes. I'll be back. In the meanwhile, if you have any queries, you can just go ahead and jot down onto the screen.
So, do you guys have any question, Kaja and Muskan? You can unmute yourself and ask.
Yeah, Nilushama, like, did we start it?
Yeah, we have started at 12 o'clock, but we were waiting for everyone to join. I guess Muskan was the first, so first 20 minutes were more or less, introduction and everything. I'll upload this recording so that whatever you have missed, you can go ahead and check it on our YouTube channel.
Yeah, sure. Like I joined in middle, so I was unable to follow the.
I'm sorry, it's more like when he started, what is virtual machine, what is cloud, and what sort of deployment models cloud have, a little bit about IaaS, SaaS, and PaaS, and SaaS as well. Nothing much. You have. I would say that you haven't missed a lot of stuff. He just started. I guess you have joined when he started. The choosing the instance type, right?
Yeah.
So I guess you haven't missed anything as of now. He just explained what are the services there, not any specific services. He just explained, to go, whatever you see when you log in for the first time into the AWS console, that sort of stuff.
Okay.
Okay, party people. So I'm back. So
Yeah.
So this is again a very important section wherein security group, because a lot of troubleshooting and as well as the problem which arises reaching out to your server instances gets resolved from here. So I'll just go ahead and try to go ahead and show what the existing, because these are the things which I have already created long time back. I don't know when I created them, and I'm strange. Okay, yeah, there are dates. So 2019, 2017. Oh my God. Okay. Any which ways, so I'll create a new DMZ for us. Let's name it as my test DMZ. And in this DMZ, I'll try to go ahead and give every rule. So guys, are you aware about ports? What are ports, and how does they work? What is white labeling? Or should I cover up these things into a new session altogether?
I think as of now you should stick to the agenda, and
Okay,
let's add those things later on in the later sessions, right?
Yeah, my bad. So what I'm going to do is I'll show you, this is SSH. So this is secure socket, once we try to go ahead and connect to our servers, because this doesn't have a GUID. So we'll always go ahead and connect it with SSH. And this is the place where you have to go ahead and, allow port number 22 for this. And anywhere I'm currently allowing, but let's not do it anywhere going further. Or custom, if you have a dedicated white labeling, so you can definitely go ahead and put in your own IP address. Else we'll go ahead and put in the global one where it can be accessible from o.o.o.o./o. And you can always go ahead and write in like admin desktop description and so on, so that it would be again easier for the administrator to know who and what made the entries onto that. Now I'm gonna add HTTPS port number 443. I'll also go ahead and add an HTTP, because we would be just designing a small website or something. FTP, UDP. So you can just go ahead and this is the fun part as well as the best part, what I like about AWS, that they give you so much of agility. You can see elastic, graphics, or if you want to have a Oracle or what RDP. So you can just go ahead and allow or disallow things from here, post office protocols, IMAPs, and SMTPs. So everything is over here. So I'll just go ahead and allow HTTP. And mind you, these are stateful. These are stateful services, wherein whatever you have it for the inbound would also act it for outbound. So inbound and outbound traffics are like, anything coming towards the server is known as inbound. Anything going outside the server is known as outbound. So now I'm gonna launch and review. Let me see, everything was done. Okay. So yes, I think we're all good to go. Now this is a very important part again, wherein we'll just have a new key pair by the name test key pair. Now, before going ahead, I'll try to go ahead and explain this particular mechanism. So this is just like a padlock. Now what happens is there's two components of the keys. So what happens is, in the server world, we do not believe logging on to a server just by DDLJ, some kind of a password, or any ex-girlfriend, what people keep, that okay, Monica 1234, and you have this particular password. So we have two handshaking been done to go ahead and allow anyone to go ahead and have a root access. So first pair is being kept by the server, and the second pair is being kept by you. Now, when this both components join, then the entire password gets created. So this is what I'm gonna do right now. So it has got a private key and it has got a public key. So the public key would be stored by the AWS and the private key would be stored by us. So until unless anyone gets my private key, he won't be able to access because he doesn't have the root access of the public key. And if anyone gets the public key, if he doesn't have the private key, he won't be able to go ahead and log in. So I'll get it downloaded. I don't know where it went, but here I can see something has been downloaded because I don't use Opera much. But I'll just try to find it in the Finder and move it to my desktop into the root account. Let me have a quick check whether it has been moved. Okay, Testkeeper has been downloaded. So this is a PEM file. Now I'll just go ahead and quickly describe what is a PEM and a PPK, but I don't think that's really that much of a necessity. Now I click on launch instance. Mind you, if you have lost this particular launch failed, some permission must have used multiple times. Okay, so the demo god is not happy with us. Wow, this is happening for the first time any which ways. I'll just quickly do the do and you guys can just go ahead and follow along. Now I'm not adding tags and everything. I just want to show you guys. Okay, I have to add because I won't be able to show you else. Keep my fingers crossed. Okay, this is again. Though we can work on the last one as well, but I won't do that. Never give a space. And always do a camel casing. Okay, this time the demo guard is happy with us and they have granted the permission. And I'll quickly move it to the So this is just for a quick insight that your instance is now launching. You can have the logs, successful, and so on and so on. Now you can just go and see it over here. Now the instant state is running and it's a T2 micro being placed in this availability zone in Mumbai region. It's still initializing. It's always a good practice to know and write down over here what it was exactly for. So here we just write test. Sorry. And it's still initializing. Let's give it some time. In the meanwhile, you can see that it has given the public DNS and it should also give you a public IP. Here you go. So if you copy this and paste it right now, it should crash ideally. Okay, error. Wow, this is a new format of error. But now once we go ahead and install something onto that, that won't create. But in this segment, we are just trying to go ahead and explain you how to go ahead and connect it to your instance, and I'll upload another video. I'll record it onto my Windows desktop, and I'll try to upload, because most of the user, you might be using a Windows machine, and if I do it on Mac and try to go ahead and gain the access of my from my terminal, you won't be able to understand it from there. So it's still initializing. So unfortunately, none of us were present. Only Niloshima was present in my last session, wherein I took it for GCP. So if you remember Niloshima, the instance running state immediately converted, and that's what I told over there, that it's the fastest whatsoever I have seen so far, be it on Azure or be it on AWS. GCP runs immediately.
So I guess the sequence is more or less, it takes, AWS is still faster than Azure, but GCP is faster than, both of them.
Yep.
Why it is taking, this much time?
Because Demogod is not happy with us today.
I mean, generally, it should be, it is very quick. I don't know.
So in the meanwhile, okay, praise the Lord. So it has been done now. So if you're using a Linux, if you're using a Windows, things doesn't change. Only the PEM file changes to PPK on Windows. And currently we'll be using a Mac. I'm using a Mac, so I'll just use the terminal, and I'll elaborate so that you guys can see over here. So I'm currently onto my MacBook Pro. I'll try to go ahead and CD desktop, now ls. So there are so many things. Let's go to the root certificates, cd root, again ls. So here we have all the certificates, as you can see. Now we are just bothered about, okay, where did it go? One second. New key, okay. So here you can see all the PEM files which I have. So I'll just select chmod to change the modulation directory. .400 permission for new key. There you go. Now again, going back to my console and just click on connect. So these were the steps which I was preferring. This is the public IP which has been mentioned over here, or you can always take the public DNS as well. Either of them would work. What I'll do is I'll just SSH into my bash using this particular command, and I think if the demo board is happy, it should just go ahead and take us in. Okay, so the demo board is happy. As you can see that we are inside our EC2 instance, and this is the Amazon Linux 2 AMI, and let's go ahead and upgrade our rights. So now I'm a super user, I can install anything. Now, since we did not have an agenda what to install, like a WordPress or like what kind of app server or configuration servers which we are supposed to have, I'll just drop it over here itself. And if you guys have any more queries on regarding this, you can always get back to me onto my personal LinkedIn profile, or you can always go to our website, post in your comments or meetup group or anything. I'll just try to go ahead and cover up the remaining section over here, which was not a part, but we still have some time, 10 minutes I guess. I'll cover up like 5 minutes of that in today. Uh, Rest I'll try to go in. So these are the AMIs. These are the instance type, launch instance, spot, reserve instance, which you can find over here, which I told you long time back. Dedicated hosts, capacity reservations, bundle toss, volume and snapshot. These are long entities. I won't be able to cover them within uh, 5 minutes. So let's not get into that. Security group and elastic IP. Let's go to the security group. So since there are this is my test DMG which I've created, and that's, if you want to implement that, you can just go ahead and create a security group or action. You can edit the inbound rules of this particular thing. Cancel. And towards your left, you have everything what your instance requires. I'll just go ahead and show you the volume. So always remember, we never do anything when the data is hot. We do not take a snapshot, or we can take though, but the best practices or the industry practices doesn't say us to go ahead and take a backup or take a volume snapshot once the data is hot. By what I mean is, if there's any kind of transaction going on, it's an e-commerce website, and you take a snapshot, and for example, there were some couple of guys who were in mid of the payment gateway, and you take a snapshot. So that particular thing won't be replicated if the server fails then and there. So it's always required that you have a maintenance flag on, and then you can do these kind of activities. Now, these are the tags which I was talking about. So now at least I know, that this particular server was been staging. So if you can see, staging LTI, website, test, and so on. So how many total were there? So Vijay has created just two, because I created it for the first one and I created it for the second one. So this was the important place which I've always wanted you guys to go and have a check, which a server administrator does. These are the events which I would like to go ahead and show you, which has happened. Unfortunately, we haven't done much drilling onto this particular thing. Here you can see that we have two instances. I'll also try to go ahead and terminate it. And unfortunately, while checking it fast, we did not check the option of, protection mode on. So I think that would be a problem over here, that if I terminate it from here, it won't do that. Yes, terminate. So have had been that we would have enabled the protection mode on, this particular window would have been grayed out. And first it would ask you to go ahead and disable that particular functionality, and then only it would allow you to go ahead and terminate this particular thing. So I'm terminating, and then in the meanwhile you can dart up with all your questions, whatever you have. So first it's shutting down, and then it would go ahead and terminate. So yes, please let me know if you have any queries. I'll be more than happy to assist you.
No, I think this was explained